You are listening to the Small Town Big Arts podcast. I'm your host, Jeffrey Kirshner, the CEO of the Academy Center of the Arts in Lynchburg, Virginia. In my own work as an arts leader, I have found it difficult to access resources for arts organizations and artists serving smaller communities. On each episode, Small Town Big Arts sets out to drive conversations and provide inspiration for those serving smaller communities through the arts. If you like what you hear, please rate and review us and share with your friends and colleagues who are working to promote the arts in smaller communities across America. You can also learn more by visiting us at smalltownbigarts.com. Recently, SMU Data Arts granted me access to some of their research oriented around their Arts Vibrancy study. The data was coming from rural communities that met the criteria of being an arts vibrant jurisdiction. There is no doubt that when it comes to arts vibrancy, large population centers have a leg up. There's a large audience base, wealth, private foundations, tourism, and often local government funding. It can be harder in rural communities. As I dug into the data, I started to look at these outlying rural vibrant communities that SMU Data Arts identified. I looked at them more closely to figure out what was happening to create vibrancy. I saw some recurring trends from my previous podcasts and posts, which I will share in the future. But I also saw some new trends and new organizational models that are finding success in smaller communities. In Woods County, Oklahoma, specifically Alva, Oklahoma, with a population of about 5,000, I found what I am calling the Cultivator. In some small communities, the primary and initial catalyst for arts vibrancy isn't necessarily an artist or an arts organization. Sometimes it's an economic development office or a community development corporation. Today, we will meet with the Cultivator of Alva, Oklahoma, Kay Decker, with the Freedom West CDC. Kay Decker is a professional grant writer, applied sociologist, community developer, and visionary for rural Oklahoma. Diversifying and strengthening rural communities is the driving factor behind everything that she does. Born and educated in Northwest Oklahoma with graduate school at Oklahoma State University, she is a mother of two and a grandmother to four wonderful grandchildren. The Freedom West CDC has developed an arts district in downtown Alva and has founded Graceful Arts Gallery and Studios, which is a full-service arts education center and gallery. The gallery supports working artists from southern Kansas, Oklahoma, and the Texas Panhandle by providing a professionally curated space for them to show and sell their work. Graceful Arts also provides visual arts education opportunities to children and adults. Freedom West CDC also sponsors and plans the annual Salt Fork June Jam Festival in downtown Alva, which is an arts and craft live music festival centered around the region's Western heritage. So, Kay, thank you for joining me today on Small Town Big Arts. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for giving me a call, and I'm happy to share with you what I know and my experience. So this is fun. I'm excited.
Well, I'm excited too. You know, one of the fun things about this project for me, Small Town Big Arts, is I get to get introduced to all these really fantastic communities across the United States. And this is the first time that I have looked at a community in Oklahoma. So this is exciting for me as well, and to talk a little bit about Oklahoma and specifically Alva and Woods County. So I think first where I want to start is tell me a little bit in your own words. Tell me about Alva. Tell me about Woods County. Tell me about where you are in Oklahoma.
Okay, Woods County is located in far northwest Oklahoma, right before you get to the Panhandle. We are 17 miles from the Kansas line, so we're fairly removed from the metros of Tulsa and Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is 3 hours away, Tulsa is 4 hours away. So we pretty much learned from the time that this region of Oklahoma was settled by white settlers. Of course, we had American Indian tribes here prior to white settlement, but we've had to learn how to do things ourselves. So I've lived here my entire life. Was born here in Alva. In fact, the hospital I was born in is now a museum, if that gives anybody any point of context as to my age. I was educated here and received my bachelor's degree from Northwestern Oklahoma State University, then went off to graduate school, lived in Stillwater, Oklahoma for 2 years, and then drove back and forth to finish my doctorate. So I was fortunate in that I was able to come back to Northwest Oklahoma to raise my family. I was able to get a job with Northwestern. I taught, and in fact still am. I taught sociology, was department chair of social sciences for 30 years, and I'm wrapping up my 35th year at the end of
Oh,
2024.
congratulations.
Yeah. So it's been a good run. I'm
And
happy
Kate, and,
to.
and the university is there too, right? It's a university town.
Yes, that's right. Northwestern is a four-year regional public liberal arts institution. And I think that's critical to really understanding the underlying vibe of Alva. We have a four-year institution with all of the amenities that go with that. We have a student population of about 2,000. And so it's not a gigantic university, but it does bring an added sense of vibrancy that you might not
Yeah.
see in non-university community.
Yeah, and that adds to the population, obviously, too.
It does, absolutely. And it brings people to town who would not probably otherwise be here. So anyway, I've been happy to come back, and after I finished my doctorate, that's when I really plugged into the community development piece of the world. I learned from attending several conferences that those communities that seem to be doing pretty well, even at times of extreme economic hardship or disparity nationwide, they just had something going on that when I really started asking questions, it was because they had a driving machine like a CDC.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go ahead and let's jump into that because I think
Okay.
I think that's one of the things I found very illuminating when I first reached out to you to talk a little bit about what was happening in Alva and why it was showing up as Arts Vibrant. And for the audience to understand too, what SMU Data Arts looks at is they look at a number of factors, and it is per capita too, so it's based on the population size, but they're looking at things like how many arts organizations are there, how many arts employees are there, they're looking at, sort of what the local support is, philanthropically in and around the arts. There's a bunch of different data points. Um, but what was very clear was that there was a lot of arts activity and per capita in a very unusual way. And so Kay, share with me a little bit of the origin story. And so let's maybe start and talk a bit about the genesis of the Graceful Arts Center, because that is obviously a big part of the story and the work with the CDC.
Mhm.
And this goes back correct to the 2008 housing crisis, correct?
Yes, yes, it does. So in 2008, the Oklahoma Arts Council developed a program known as Leadership Arts. I was class one and participated in that for a full year. And in 2008, of course, we were in the middle of a major mortgage meltdown nationwide. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of communities were struggling. A lot of communities were really stressed in terms of economics and job loss and the whole smattering of problems. But every community that we visited during the Leadership Arts year, and I had a colleague who attended with me, which was helpful to bat things around with, but we would go to these communities in different parts of the state, and there was just something going on in that community that I made note of, that okay, we got to get to the bottom of why are they not seemingly as stressed as other communities. And it went back to the arts.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of these communities had an active arts district or an active group of people who were really pushing the arts. And where there are arts, there are people. I call it the FOMO effect, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And people, they want to gather, they want to do things, they want to be engaged. So we came back home after this year of touring these various arts I don't know if I want to call them arts sensitive or arts vibrant, but we came back home and I went to right in the middle of the downtown square, and Alva is a traditional courthouse square community. Right in the middle of the south side of the square were two burned out buildings that had been basically left there for probably about 18 months.
Hmm.
Didn't really know what was going to happen with that space. And the one of the banks in town owned that property. So I just went to a friend of mine who worked at the bank and I said, "Hey, why don't you sell me those two lots? Let's get that cleaned up. We can do something there."
Yeah.
So I
I
explained
love
to
that
him,
about a small community too. That's
yeah,
one of the things I love, right? That you can
yep,
walk into the bank and be like, we do these
right.
things. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. So I explained kind of what I was thinking, full service arts center with gallery space, arts education space, and he said, okay, he said, let me throw this at the owners and we'll see what happens. I didn't hear anything for 6 months. So I figured, okay, that idea is dead in the water. I'm going to have to do something else. Because I really wanted to pursue this. I just felt pretty strongly that Alva was ready for something like this. And we had the population of artists, working artists in the region that needed a place to show and sell their work. We also needed a place where kids and adults could go and receive visual arts education and all kinds of creative stuff. So
Yeah.
about 6 months later, he caught up with me and he said, "Hey, Kay, Dr. Wisdom from the Wisdom Family Foundation, and I'll get into that more in a little bit.
Hmm.
She suggested that maybe the bank build a building and you guys just come in here and do whatever you want to do regarding the arts." Dr. Peggy Wisdom is the owner of Alva State Bank. Her mother was an artist.
Oh, okay.
Her mother had passed away not too long before. I had visited with my friend about the building. And so I said, okay, we're in. I wrote a grant application to USDA Rural Development to buy equipment, furnishings. And trust me, when I went to them and told them what I wanted to do, you would have thought that my hair was on fire because I'm a sociologist, I'm not an artist. And that was the first thing that I was asked. Well, what do you know about the arts? I said, well, what I don't know, I certainly know who to go to get information. So I'm not afraid of this because I really
I
believe
love it.
that if you decide you're going to do something and you work hard, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. And so Graceful Arts was born. Dr. Wisdom's mother's name was Grace. Therefore, the
Oh, okay.
title
Okay.
of the gallery is Graceful Arts. And we opened in October of 2010. So we've been going now for 13 and a half years.
So
Yeah.
Kate, I have a question, the with the foundation, because one of the things in talking to SMU Data Arts is that one of the trends that does exist very often in these communities is there is some sort of funding source, right? Whether it be a private foundation, whether it be the local government,
Mhm.
usually there's something there.
Right.
Um, so going into this, it sounds like it was just somewhat of an organic discovery that there was
Right.
that
Yeah.
the foundation was tied to an artist.
Right. It's almost serendipity. And I really am one of those people that believe things happen for a reason.
Hmm.
um, had just gone through leadership arts. The fact that Freedom West had been in operation for 10 years, we had a pretty solid financial history. So I'd received quite a few, written and received quite a few grants up to that point. I felt comfortable with grant writing, and not just anybody's going to be able to go in there and do this, but with enough steady stair-stepping growth, you can do it. And yes, it does require that you've got a local foundation or some type of philanthropic tie to give you that boost. And Graceful Arts has been a wonderful piece of the arts architecture for the community.
Hmm.
But that would not have happened had it not been for Dr. Wisdom and the Wisdom Family Foundation. And so they still own the building. They've been supportive financially. Of course, we're responsible for writing grants, and part of our revenue is generated from sales and from tuition. But I'm always looking for funding opportunities, and that's critical in this business. You've
Yeah.
got to know how to do it. Yep.
It's a common theme, common theme.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
how, I think I want to talk a little bit too, because the other thing that you did was you, established an arts district. And I want to talk about that because one of the things I love about Alva's story is that this was propelled forward. The spark was lit by a CDC. And so, there are a lot of things that a CDC or an economic development authority can do, or a local government can do, to help
Right.
create a path for artists to enter and engage. And it's clear the arts district was also a really important thing. And you mentioned it earlier when you were visiting in
Yes.
2008, we were visiting these communities. So tell me a little bit about how that was done, and then also why that's important, because I think it's good for other jurisdictions to hear that.
Sure. Okay, so Alva has a variety of arts entities. We have the Nescatonga Arts and Humanities Council, which is celebrating its, I believe, 54th year of existence. And that was formed back when I was a kid, by a group of women in the community that really wanted to showcase local and regional artists and the fine arts and the fine crafts that were developed here. We also have a mural society. We have an Act One community theater, Alva Community Theater, which is also on the downtown square. The Nescatonga Arts and Humanities Council had purchased a hundred and I think that's 130-year-old hotel from up in Kansas
Hmm.
back in the 1880s. And I would have loved to have been a mouse and watched that process happen. It's a big two-story structure. They brought it to Alva, fording all the rivers on logs and being pulled by a team of horses, brought that
That's
structure to
amazing.
Alva, and the Nescatonga Arts and Humanities Council had restored that structure using volunteer labor for the most part. And it is on our downtown square. We consider it kind of a cultural center, that people can rent and hold events there, etc. And the Arts and Humanities Council is the owner of that property.
Hmm.
And so you have all of these different arts organizations, not even including the public schools and the university, that have a little piece of the arts in our community. And one of the things that we were kind of missing was the connection with the municipal government.
Yeah.
So in 2011, the Nescatonga Arts and Humanities Council presented a resolution to the city council asking for the downtown square and at least a block beyond the downtown square on all four sides be recognized formally as an arts district. Then in 2014, I wrote a grant application to the Oklahoma Arts Council. They had a program that was to support the development of certified arts districts through the Arts Council. And we were awarded the pilot grant. So we were the first one in the state to kind of test the waters with that.
Oh,
And
cool.
we brought in a staff member from the Arts Council, a team of architectural students, and their primary faculty department head from OU. They came and spent a couple of days in Alva and just kind of did an assessment, if you will, of the downtown arts district. They drew up some recommendations. For example, we have a stage, an outdoor stage on the perimeter of our courthouse, and it needs to have a roof over it. Doesn't need to be enclosed, but we need to have a roof over it. So they drew a conceptual design of that. They also recommended some wayfinding signage, and so that's what we did. We just started plugging away
Mm.
at what the cultural district plans involved, and we've not hit every one of those, but we've hit several. We I think have come a long way since that time. It's 10 years ago. We have wayfinding signage throughout the community that helps to direct traffic from the university and the main four or two highways and the intersection of those two highways to our downtown, which is 5 blocks from the university. And that had been an issue for Alva for a long time. How do we get through traffic to come to our downtown retail, which is the primary retail district, and it's also our arts district? And so wayfinding signage was critical. We've relied on that plan. We've relied on that strategy to go after other grants. We have lots of public art in the community that has
Yeah.
come about because of all of that. So it all goes together. And again, the idea of finding the partners within a community, helping them see their piece in the grand scheme of things, and then that stair-stepping growth process is.
Yeah. And in arts district too, it really, as you said, you needed something to kind of create cohesion and then a brand. The
Yes,
other thing that I'm hearing in what you're saying too is this also by creating an arts district, it plugged you into a larger state network
yes,
in regards to resources, right? That Oklahoma University getting engaged, obviously the council and the Oklahoma Arts Council keeps coming up, which
oh
obviously
yeah,
is there for the state. And
right,
we have spent on small town big arts. I because I'm in the state of Virginia, I spent a lot of time. There's a couple of episodes we have where I'm interviewing the executive director of the Virginia Commission for the Arts, which is our version of the
sure,
Oklahoma Council. And it's an important resource for the state, but very often the larger metro areas have the biggest voices, right?
yes,
And but something like an arts district can plug you into that resource in a way and also
right,
help people kind of understand why we're doing this. The simple thing is
right,
wayfinding, getting people, off of one road onto another road. These are things that,
yes,
are a big deal. From my conversations with you, one of the things that's been clear is even these existing arts entities. This has been, I would imagine, right, has been fruitful for them. I imagine it's been galvanizing and help propel them forward. Would that be correct in guessing?
yes. I think so. It's also helped to all of us, and I include myself, but it also helps all of us to understand that glue is important. And when I say glue, bringing us all together for the betterment of the whole. And then also recognizing that each entity within the community, the arts community in Alba, has its own little niche that it can
Hmm.
provide. So we have music, we have theater, we have visual arts, we have an arts and cultural center. We have all of these things, but you still kind of need to have somebody who can think about that in a bigger picture way and figure out, okay, so if I went after this particular program's funding, how could that help everybody? And sometimes it takes a whole lot of talking
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
folks to understand that. But yeah, it does. It helps everybody, and it supports our retail climate in terms of sales tax. So it's huge.
Right. Well, see, this is the other thing I think that's really important to talk about in regards to this idea of the cultivator that have
Yeah.
coined here is that I think it can be very often difficult for artists and stretched and strained arts organizations to sort of figure out how to work the system, right?
Yeah. Right.
Right. There are resources that exist. There are things to plug into, things like sales tax, wayfinding signs, state agencies, right? And as a CDC or a government entity, the plugging into this. So I coined this word, the cultivator, and I have put that out there. Okay, poor Kay did not come up with that, but I came up with it. When I say that
Oh,
I
I
view
like that
you,
word. That's good.
well, good. I view you as a cultivator, so I am sort of curious, how do you, how does that term resonate with you in regards to what you're doing as a cultivator of the arts? I mean, that's what I sort of see happening here. You were a gardener, right? I mean, you're providing, fertilizer and water and sunlight,
It
right? I
works
mean,
for me. I'm right. Yeah, I'm good
does
with
that
that.
resonate?
Yes, I'm right in the middle of farm and ranch country, so that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And we definitely rely on the different sectors of our economy, and I know exactly what you're talking about when it comes to the arts. In working with artists who come into the gallery, it is always an interesting conversation when I start talking to them about how did they price their work, how did they see themselves and what they do in the broader picture of community and region, and where does their subject matter come from. A lot of times their subject matter actually does come from the rural landscapes and
Yeah.
the different kinds of households and businesses. I mean, it's amazing actually, the subjects that just kind of, like you say, organically emerge. But when you're trying to build an arts community, all of these factors have to be considered. If you really want to get the full scope of support from NEA all the way down to your neighbor next door, you have to be inclusive. You have to understand how do they play into this to grow what can really be a fun thing, a healthy thing, a financially supportive thing for our region. You just have to include all of them.
Yeah, I think that you are well positioned as a CDC to look at that bigger picture. I think
Yeah,
it can be very easy to become to have an austerity mindset as an arts organization, and sort of try to, consolidate everything, hold it in, not share donor information, or
right.
feel that, there and I think number one, I would say to arts organizations that's not helpful, but B, I do think that you are positioned as a CDC and as a cultivator to just be viewing it much more holistically, looking at Alva on the whole, looking
Yeah,
at what it means, right, in terms of community development, which it has to be really inclusive, has to include everybody. And I think that even for those who may be listening who are not with a CDC, I still think this is really valuable to hear, because I think that there are,
yeah,
a, um, think about either, you know, contacting a local CDC or formulating a CDC. That would be one thing.
right.
But also again, thinking about, okay, well, how are we looking at the bigger picture and not just sort of our own
Sure.
circumstances?
Yes, and I mean, we provide internships for college students who are in the creative fields or humanities fields. And we've done everything at the gallery from a writing marathon to First Friday art walks
Yeah.
to a young elementary kid taking violin lessons. And any of you who know about violin learning, when they first start out,
Oh yeah.
it can be a
I
struggle for.
I can tell you I have a 7-year-old who plays the violin, so I can tell you.
Yes,
Yep, I know.
well, his grandmother came to us. This was not too long after we opened the gallery, and she said, "Would it be possible for Spencer to host a recital here?" And sure, that yes, absolutely. That's why we're here. That's one of the things we can do. So Spencer, at the ripe old age of, I think he was 10, he brought his violin, his family, and he had a recital right there in the gallery.
I mean, how great is that though, too, right, for Spencer? I think it's really, really pretty important and pretty special. For Spencer, he gets to have a space where he can share what he's working on. And I don't know, that's just really important, right? That we have these community spaces that can be utilized in that way.
Yes, absolutely. Spencer's now in college. He has been he has been one of the we can call him anytime if we've got heavy stuff that needs to be moved around and say, hey, Spencer, we need you for a couple of hours to kind of come help us. And I don't know if I've lost you again. You're kind of frozen in time.
Are you ready?
Okay, yes.
All right, go.
Okay, so Spencer is now in college. He's been a good kid to come help us anytime we need heavy stuff moved around. He took classes down at the gallery while he was growing up, in addition to violin lessons, which were all the way in Wichita. His parents drove
Oh,
him to
wow.
Wichita for
Wow.
violin lessons. But yeah, and we made it special for him and his family. We had a little reception table, and we've got kids who've been with us since they were 5, 6, and who are now entering college or finishing high school soon. And we can call them up. They've stayed with us. They come down. They like to, their parents know they can come there after school. They're in a safe place. They know our rules and regulations, if you will. They have a good time. Yeah, that's part of what we do. Support kids, support families.
Yeah,
And, you know,
and that's a big, I think when we're thinking about community cohesion and connectivity, and I love Spencer's story too. I love that he continued
yeah,
on with you and helped out and
yeah,
so I want to ask this question too. One of the things that happens when you go and do a search on the internet for Alva is that it comes up that it is the mural capital of Oklahoma. That comes up
yes,
as an
yeah.
element, which I love. Did that happen before or after the establishment of the Arts District?
It actually was happening a little before the Arts District. It was a group of individuals who were very involved with the Nescatunga Arts and Humanities Council. And one of them was a retired aviation engineer. Another one was a retired chemical engineer, and they had moved back to their hometown of Alva, used the knowledge and tools that they had um, gained from urban living, because they were always involved in the arts. And they decided, we need to come together and figure out what can set Alva apart from a lot of other communities. And they happened upon the idea of murals, and specifically historic content focused murals.
And specific history to Alva and Oklahoma or wider than that?
It is this region.
Okay.
So we have murals that looked at the opening of the Cherokee Outlet. We have murals of that include antique farm machinery, which at the time would have been a thresher machine, and horse-drawn plows, etc. One-room schoolhouses, you name it. All of that is subject matter for these murals. And it's been great to scatter them around town. We have some of the historic buildings that Alva is fortunate that it still has a lot of its 125-year-old buildings that are still in use. And so they're not painting directly on buildings. They have some type of either a canvas or board background, and that's
Okay.
that's what they paint these on. And they're all over town. I think we're up to 37 at this point, because we had
That's
added
great.
three new ones last year. Yeah, so we now have a mural fest every fall, and a mural fest is a way to raise money to help maintain murals and add more.
Yeah, one of the things I love too is that, one of the things that I have found as a trend in arts vibrant communities is that uh often, not always, but often the arts are very reflective of the identity and culture of the community itself. And that is a big part of how the community comes to really value what it is because it is about and for them. And there's a pride that is established. So I love that it is oriented around the identity of the region and
Yes.
um
Yeah.
and I think that that's really pretty key. I mean, I think you can put I mean, there's lots of cool mural programs that exist across the United States, um but I do think the fact that it's specific to you all is
Yeah.
is cool to hear.
Yeah.
And that's impressive. I also love this idea, and I would throw this out to there to anybody listening, but I love the throwing down the gauntlet and being like, we're gonna be we're gonna be the mural capital of Oklahoma. You know,
Right.
why not? Right? Why not? Why not?
True. Yeah.
And then it pushes, that you keep adding them, and
Right.
that's awesome. It doesn't stop. It becomes a clear community identity.
Yeah.
Um, and clearly one of the reasons that you all show up as an arts vibrant community is this, we're gonna do three more this year.
Yeah. We have mural paint in refrigerators and freezers all over town.
Love
It's
it.
hilarious. Yeah.
I love
Some of
that.
the some of the artists who come to town, they're like, okay, so where are you keeping the paint for touch-ups? Oh, let's see. The black on mural number 3 is in Bob Jones' refrigerator in his garage. Yeah.
I love it. Well, that's great too.
Yeah.
I mean, right, and also community involvement, right? That it
Yeah.
runs. I mean, it's you got to go to Bob's house to get the paint, and I
Right.
love that actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Speaking of outside artists, one of the things that came up when we talked a little bit about was this regional influence. That the impact isn't just Alva, it's also making impact on regional artists, and there are
Right.
artists that are coming to you all to participate in the different activities that you all are running and doing. So tell me a little bit about what that's looked like, what that's meant, where the artists are coming from.
Okay. Um, so this might be a little bit of a cultural history lesson for some folks out there, but in this part of the United States, first of all, Oklahoma had been reserved by the federal government for relocating Eastern Native American tribes to so that the eastern half of the US could be settled by white settlers. Kansas was a farming mecca, if you will. All the Great Plains states were. So
Hmm.
there were a lot of immigrants who came to the Great Plains that had farmed in various countries in Europe. And among some of these were Germans from Russia. Volga Germans is also how a lot of them would be
Hmm.
known today. And these entities, these immigrant groups, ethnic immigrant groups, tended to develop enclaves. And they, at least for the first couple of generations, sometimes as far as 3 generations post immigration, they retained a very tight knit cultural group. And that could include language, religiosity, the arts is
Hmm.
a big factor, cooking, you name it, music. So here in Alva and right across the border between Kansas and Oklahoma, we had a lot of German immigrants, Volga German immigrants were here. We had some from Denmark, the Scandinavian countries, but not as many. And they would have these ethnic enclaves, and nearly every household would have musical instruments. They would practice the culinary arts. They would have textile arts, although they might not have thought of themselves as artists in that regard, but it's
Yeah,
what it
but it was
was.
definitely a means of artistic expression.
Absolutely, yes. And then you had the Western influence, the cowboys that drove cattle up the Chisholm and Great Western trails that would come here. And then after Oklahoma was open for settlement in this part of the state, then a lot of those cowboys from South Texas, they came back here and they started ranches. So you put all of those things together in a relatively oh, it's not a huge geographic area, but they had their own way of entertaining each other. They had their own way of staying busy, of continuing their culture that they brought with them. And
Hmm. Hmm.
so, interestingly, we've been able to tap into some of that, particularly up in Kansas. Kansas has a history of supporting the musical arts and the visual arts in most of the schools. We don't see that everywhere, but in the smaller rural schools, you will have a full-fledged music program.
Oh, interesting. And this is
Yeah,
Kansas, you're saying.
yes.
Interesting.
And so I attribute that in many respects to that history of settlement and ethnic
Ah,
enclaves and
yeah.
continuing that cultural history that they brought with them. Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
we draw on that for the gallery. And so we truly, I mean, we are here for artists of the region to give them a space to show and sell their work. We have, well, one of my favorites to exemplify this is a ranch woman who lives about 30 miles northwest of Alva, lives out in the middle of a big ranch, and she does charcoal drawings that if you were to look at it, it looks like a photograph.
Hmm.
And I mean, she just did a workshop for us here last first of the spring semester, and that's what she does. She engraves on silver. She does the charcoal drawings, and she said
Formally
this is
trained or just,
not really. No,
yeah,
she's
wow.
self-taught. Yes, and
Huh,
she's just a very artistic person. Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that.
So,
Well, and out on this ranch and
yeah.
you all become this important place to share that incredible
Yes.
gift and talent, you know? I mean,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
amazing.
She's exhibited at the gallery I think 3 times, and then she's taught a couple of workshops. So yeah, it's that's kind of what we do, and we're always looking for arts educators, either formally trained or not. Doesn't matter to us as long as they can convey their craft, their skill, their knowledge to someone else.
Yeah.
That's okay. You
Yeah.
know, that's what we do.
I love that enclave history too. You know, it is um you know in conversations with a lot of communities there are these historic traditional practices, right, that sort of find their way into modernity and um and that deep appreciation and practice of the arts and then the passing of the arts down existing there,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and that's 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 I don't know, it's a really interesting discovery in this conversation too, just in regards to that being also a foundational element of what's going
Sure.
on.
That's right. And helping those people to continue their
Yeah,
history, you
yeah.
know.
So, okay, I have another, you know, question or topic, you know, to talk about as we're sort of rounding the corner here, and that is one of the things I was really struck by in talking to you is you mentioned in our first conversation, we talked really briefly a little bit about succession. And I was struck by that because it is a again a thing I keep kind of coming across in these in many of these rural communities is that sometimes there's just these powerhouse individuals that a community is just really lucky to have.
Yeah.
And they show up and they do a bunch of stuff and get a bunch of things done, and it's really hard. And not that it's not appreciated, but maybe there's not always a full understanding of what all it takes.
Yeah.
And and then how is that maintained? How is longevity created? You know, and so I was struck because you mentioned succession and you mentioned, you know, the breadth of your career and beginning to think about um, retirement and, you know, but obviously I assume that, you know, Alva will continue to be your home and where you live
Yeah.
and so yeah, talk to me a little bit about how you see that and you view that and what you think the future is and yeah, it's just kind of curious your thoughts on that.
Okay. So first, I will say that I have a fabulous board of directors. I have 9 members on my board. Many of them have been with me for going on 15 years. I don't think well, I just lost a 20-year member. She had been one of the original people on my board when Freedom West was first started. And when I say a fabulous board, I've got bankers, I've got grocery store owners, city government people. These folks know what they're doing,
Yeah.
and they
Can I
they
pause that really quick too? I just
yes,
want everybody to hear that also. This is the other thing about a CDC, right? And even if you're not a CDC, take a lesson in who should be on your board, right? In terms of
right,
expertise,
yes,
knowledge. Anyway,
that's
keep going. I
right.
want to hear more about your great board.
Well, these folks have always been supportive. of our programs. They get it, they understand it, they want to be supportive in every way possible. All I have to do, if I have a question or a concern, I can pick up the phone and call any one of them and say, hey, I need some help with X, Y, and Z because I'm not sure this is working. And even if it's just them listening while I kind of spew stuff for a while, they will. Or, for example, one of my board members is a law enforcement officer who also now is teaching criminal justice at our technology center. And we have a couple of affordable housing units in a community 20 miles away. And apparently, the police chief in that community had missed the message that if there is a concern at one of these properties, to call my office.
Mm.
And I get a letter, the grass is way too tall and we're going to have to fine you. It's like, this isn't how we communicate. So I went to my law enforcement officer board person. I said, Adam, do you know da da da? Yeah, I do. And I said, I need you to call him and explain it. Oh, no problem. He did. Everything's fine. That's what a good board
Yeah,
does.
yeah, yeah. They're their connectivity to the community. They provide you
Yes,
connection
that's right.
points. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
And they're not trying to tell you what to do. They are there to help you. And that's what I try and encourage every organization to understand. Go after the helpers. The helpers that know things are who you need on your board,
Yeah.
and they will help you. But bankers are good, business owners are good because they also know finances. So there's
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You
And,
know,
I think what's also important here too, right, in regards to the businesses is that the economic development piece of this that we're talking about, right,
yes, right.
is something that they will understand,
Yep,
and it is a value you provide as the arts in a community is that. So
right.
among other things, but it's obviously one of the big things. So for
Yeah.
you, in terms of continuation of the arts vibrancy of Alva, do you feel that it is that the this board is the foundation for that continuation? Do you feel that is something that can be carried forward, or do we need another K Decker to show up?
Well, I would like to clone myself at times, but I know that's not possible. But I would love to find a younger person who is a good writer, a good communicator, extremely motivated,
Mhm.
and who is willing to learn, and I will teach them. I'll show them everything that I know and more, get them sent to conferences and trainings. Because you don't know everything when you're first starting out. Some of it's trial by error. And as long as you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, then you're good. You learn from the mistakes you make and go forward. But I would love to find that younger person. Yes, I know that my retirement days are rapidly approaching, and I do have some things that I would like to do, but I'm also just a little bit on the hyperactive side of things. So I know I'm never going to just completely sit down. I don't
Hey,
really like to do that.
we
Yeah,
need people like you in our communities. I
yeah.
think, yeah, I mean, if I could make a case, I really believe there is a an incredible life to live in a smaller community and in community development, and I think for
Yeah.
many young people looking for purpose and looking for something to do with their life, um, I think it is a fantastic opportunity,
Oh,
and
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. If you like to see your efforts and your knowledge and what you learn turning into something beneficial for others, this is the world to be in. And I am an applied sociologist, so I like to take big picture stuff and see it actually have an impact for the better on
yeah.
people and communities, and that's my driving force in life besides my family. I like to see results.
Yeah. Well, you did it, okay? Because it's you popped out of the data. Like, I mean, it's a pretty
That's
cool thing.
cool.
Like,
Yeah,
it
I
definitely
bet.
did. There was, SMU
Exciting.
Data Arts gave me this spreadsheet, and there was like, I don't know, maybe 20 counties that showed up on it. And there you
Mhm.
all were, Woods County, Oklahoma. It popped up. It was like, there it is. This is a arts vibrant community.
That's awesome.
And and in looking at all of it, some of the spots it was maybe a little bit clearer as to why
Sure.
it was happening. But I really latched on to you all because I just think that it is a great example of a path for many small communities. And I think it's important to talk about a community too that sits around that sort of 5,000 person
Sure.
population and
Yep.
so say, hey, listen, you can have an economic driver like this. The arts can be a critical part of where you live, and you can be a K Decker and live a great life. And I think one of the
Yep.
things too, it's also really clear is being, the love you have for that place, right? It's where
Yep.
you live, it's where you're from, you're invested in it. I think that I would argue that's another key ingredient to
You
what
you do,
I'm
yeah, you do need to have that connection. I think it makes things I can't say easier, but it makes things make sense, maybe a
hmm
little quicker. I mean, I had three sets of great great grandparents that came here when this was opened in 1893. And so it has been home to my family for a long time. And I have both my children are still here. They're both involved in
Oh,
ag
that's great.
and finance, and that's important to me also. I know that not every family has those kinds of options available to them, but we were, and I'm thankful for that. I know that it's a blessing, and I don't disregard that ever. It's important.
Well, and I would make an argument you created probably a quality of life there that it was worth it to them to stay. People
It
leave
is, yeah,
when they don't want it, when the quality of life isn't for them. And I think that's
right.
probably, I'm gonna guess, um, another benefit of the work you've done in the community.
It helps to bring younger people back and gives them, again, I'm going to go back to FOMO, fear of missing out. When there's
Mhm.
stuff happening, you
Yeah.
betcha.
Yeah. We're gonna stay. We're gonna be here.
Yeah,
And we're gonna raise kids here. Yeah, I think it's a thing.
yeah,
Well, Kay, as a
yeah.
final thing, I always like to leave and ask advice from your time as a cultivator of the arts. Any advice that you might have for others in communities looking to cultivate the arts, and what advice you might have?
First of all, don't be a silo. Recognize that you have to have the whole thing coming together, people working together, and communications are critical. And then be supportive of each other and don't be afraid to learn new things. Change can sometimes be scary for
Mhm.
folks, but change can also be beneficial. And it helps you, what we have now helps us to weather the storms of other factors, such as a global pandemic. We were
Yeah.
still able to keep going in many respects, even though this global pandemic is raging everywhere. We were still able to keep certain important pieces of our community going. And yes, we brought in, teams to come in and thoroughly antiseptic the whole
Oh
gallery
yeah, we were all
several
there. Yep,
times.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
But we spread kids out,
Yeah,
as long as nobody was running a temperature or whatever, come in and we're gonna keep doing arts.
yeah.
And we did that. We had arts outside. And I know that climate wise, we're able to do that probably a little better than folks living north of here, but working together. And I have said this so many times the past 20 years, be careful to not become a silo, because once you're a silo, you can't do it all by yourself.
Yeah, game over.
Yes,
Game
exactly.
over. And I would make it, I actually think it's one of the things that larger markets can really learn from smaller communities, actually, is the importance of connectivity and
Yes.
cohesion.
Yeah.
I think in small communities, it's, in some ways it's easier, some ways it's harder, but that connectivity is a huge component of smaller community life.
Yes.
And yeah, if you're in a small community, I mean, it has to it has to be what you're doing.
Well,
But
you have
I've been
to,
making
yeah.
arguments of what you have to be doing in any community. So I think
Yeah. That's
it's
right.
uh it's great. Well, Kay,
Yeah.
thank you. I really appreciate this. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I've been, so excited to learn about you all. My hope that I will travel is happening a little less in this phase of my life, but I hope to make it through Oklahoma at some point and stop in and out
Sure.
and
Absolutely.
and visit
Yeah.
you all, and it's
We'd love to have you bring your kiddo and
yeah, I'd love it. I'd love it. And
yes, that would be wonderful. Yeah.
that'd be awesome. Well, okay, thank you so much, and
Well, thank you.
I really
And
appreciate it.
anything in the future, if we can help you, just let me know. Be happy to do that. And I'm happy to know that this project is underway, and let me know how we can watch it.
We will. And Kay, before we go, tell us your website. So if anybody wants to check out the Freedom West CDC.
Okay, it's freedomwest.org. And then the Graceful Arts is Graceful Arts Center .org. And so just go to either one of those. And we are in the process of changing everything out about our website, but we have Facebook also for the gallery, which thank heavens for social media, because sometimes it can also be a curse, but I'm happy to have it right
It
now
is a
as
good
we're.
reminder that sometimes it's good. Yeah.
Yes, it
It's
is.
a
It can
double-edged
be.
sword.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it very
Absolutely. Thank
much.
you, Kay.
Okay. All right. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Small Town Big Arts. Remember to rate and review us and share with your friends. To learn more, visit us at smalltownbigarts.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Jeffrey Kirshner.